Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Word on Long Beach. I'm Jackie Rae. This is our first ever podcast, and we're going to tell you about some things you might have missed and some things that are coming up. This first one has hit a nerve for some people in the community. Poly High Long Beach is known nationwide. If you're a sports fan like me, you know Steelers' Juju Smith-Schuster went there, and after spending a whole bunch of time with the Eagles, Deshaun Jackson also went to Poly High. He has made his way back to LA. He's going to be playing for the Rams. But aside from sports, Poly High is known for its rigorous academics and its Grammy-winning music program. Poly's Center for International Curriculum is in danger of fading away, which is a big deal for a lot of people. And joining me now are Mike G. and Tyler Hendrickson. They have been covering this from day one. So let's just dive right into this. First, why is the C.I.C program so important to so many people? Mike?
There's two magnet programs at Poly. There's the PACE program and the C.I.C program. And traditionally, the C.I.C program has been sort of the more diverse magnet program, one of the more diverse magnet programs in the city, and a chance for kids who live in the Poly neighborhood to take AP classes, very high, 100% college acceptance rate. And so there's been a lot of people, including one of the organizers of this petition and the sort of protest movement, who her mom was an undocumented immigrant who grew up on the West Side. She went to Poly's C.I.C., she went to UCLA, she went to Harvard, and that was sort of her path up and out to a better education.
So I actually have several friends who are third generation Long Beach. And so this is actually a big deal for them. So that kind of let me know how important this program is to a lot of people. But typically when we're talking about, especially school districts, these kind of things are done in private. They don't really leak out into the public till it's too late. So how did this become public knowledge? And how did the community find out about this?
Well, it really centered around the C.I.C facilitator, Jeff Anui, who'd been there for a very long time. And, word came down that, that he was no longer going to be involved with the program, which I think raised a lot of eyebrows. And so there was some different stories about what happened, and parents were told that he was stepping down to spend more time with his family. And, when we talked to Jeff for the story, that wasn't the case, and so his position had been downsized, and that was going to, necessarily change the way the program was structured and the way it looked by not having that facilitator. And at that point, there were some rumblings, and there had been meetings between teachers and district members where they knew that, there was, talk of adjustments to the program and possibly taking away the magnet distinction that, has kept C.I.C and PACE both at Poly has been, leading academic programs in the city and really nationwide.
So was the downsizing of his position the first sign that they were trying to do away with this program?
Yeah, I think that's what, we talked to a number of students who, when the students heard, they were all kind of like, well, this is a guy who's really beloved, that everyone in that program feels really strongly about. So I think the students heard it. A group of parents really started pushing for more information at that point, started hearing from a ton of the teachers that we also spoke with saying, yeah, we've been in meetings where they're saying this program's done or this program's not going to be a magnet program going forward. And that's what really sparked it into the national conversation. Anais Lopez, who we interviewed for both of our stories about this for the Post, she started a petition at that point to sort of bring a little bit more light to what was going on. And then the parents really got after it. I mean, I couldn't believe the amount of, when we began doing interviews, the amount of emails and documentation that they had about what they'd been told. And as a reporter, you just start to see these different stories about what's happening and who's doing what and why. And you just immediately go, well, hold on. If everything's above board here, then why are people being told three different stories from three different people?
And the protests work. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, the pressure was definitely felt by the presence, not just of the actual physical protest that took place outside the school board meeting, but also, the petition as well. So the community definitely made their voice heard, and it seemed to have an impact on what the district was doing.
I can't help but wonder, though, you just said that they have a 100% college admission rate. So the program is clearly working. Why downsize it at all?
There's sort of this feeling, I think, among some people in the school district that, Poly gets kind of extra benefits. And it is the only high school with these two magnet or specialized programs on campus. Most of the high schools just have one or none. And so I think there's a feeling among some people in the district, it appears, no one wants to talk about it on the record, obviously, that Poly should have one program just like Wilson or Millikan or wherever else. And so the district sort of initially came out and said, well, the number of applicants for these programs has gone down. But then when we sort of push for numbers on that, it turns out the applications for all these programs across the city have gone down. So whether that's because more kids are going to private schools, whether it's because, as the district points out, they're in declining enrollment, so all the numbers are going down. That's a different story. We haven't gotten into that, but those are sort of the justifications that were being put out there for potential changes.
Now, like I said, I have a friend that lives in Long Beach, and her feeling was this specific program really benefits Black and Brown communities. So she was taking it very personal, like this might be some racial tension. Did you guys interview people that felt the same?
Yeah, I mean, a ton of the parents we spoke with, that was sort of their thing was historically, if you look at the different magnet programs in the city, like C.I.C absolutely has been one of the most diverse programs in the city. And so we interviewed a ton of kids, covering sports, which is primarily what we do. C.I.C has sort of always been the athletes magnet. I mean, Willie McGinnis was in C.I.C, like a lot of really prominent, Ariana Washington, who was an Olympian that we covered out of Poly. And they would all talk about that, like, it was a magnet program that it wasn't the most rigorous magnet program like the PACE program. It allowed you the time to train for sports. And as such, it's got a wider pool of people who are in it. And yeah, it's absolutely one of the more diverse programs. And I think that's a big part of why there's been so much emotion. I think that kind of surprised some of the people in the school district that there was that much emotion. But this is a program that has been around for almost 40 years that has absolutely connected with Black students and with Hispanic students and Cambodian, Asian students in the community saying, well, this one's for us. Why would you cut this?
Well, and building off Mike's point, we talked to Willie McGinnis for when we wrote the book, the Scholars and Champions, the History of Long Beach Poly. And one of the quotes that he gave us that really stood out was his experience being in CIC and being in a diverse program on a diverse campus really set him up for success in life. And that's why he was so excited to send his daughter Riley to Poly, and she's going to go on and be a volleyball player at USC. So, we see other athletes as well, like Miles Johnson, who was a huge story in the NCAA tournament with Rutgers, as an engineering student there, and he came through the CIC magnet. And so there's just all these, examples of, poster child really of what you'd want from the academic experience, where you can be an elite athlete, but also have goals in the classroom as well. And so, we saw CIC kind of as a great personification for that.
I'm surprised that you said the school district was surprised by the outrage of this, because obviously with this history that this program has, did they expect it to go away quietly?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't have the answer to that. Certainly, we've been surprised, but I would say that having covered school districts or public entities, the way you know that they're surprised is that there was not a company line about it. There was every different level of administration was telling these parents and teachers a different story, which tells me, okay, this is something they thought was sort of going to be done without a big bright light shining on it. Because otherwise you have all those ducks in a row, right? You have your answers to those questions. You're not saying, well, the facilitator stepped down because he wants to spend more time with the kids, without it occurring to you that, well, he's probably going to tell people that that's a lie.
Absolutely. And Tyler, you said that the protest and the petition, it actually worked. How did it work? How did that change the mind of the school district?
Well, I mean, the district was definitely said that they are not making any changes for this school year. So, CIC will continue as a magnet, a specialized program in the district's verbiage into this next school year. So it's at least a temporary reprieve. And there's, discussions with, what to do as far as, with Jeff Anui's position as the facilitator and possibly maintaining what had already been in place. And so, but we could certainly tell just based on the statements that the district was making that they heard from the community, and that was definitely now sort of steering their movement going forward. But at the very least, they know, hey, the people are informed about this, they're watching, and they have a pretty clear opinion about what they want out of the program.
Do you think that's a long-term fix? Like, did they hear them to the point where they understand the importance of this and now the community can relax? Or do you think they need to stay on top of this to make sure this program stays around?
I think it's really difficult because they were never upfront about what they were planning in the first place. So it's a little bit like we heard behind the scenes, hey, these are the things that are being planned. And then we've heard behind the scenes, okay, they're going to leave it alone. But, I think in talking to, we interviewed we spent a month basically interviewing people nonstop for this story. And in talking to the parents, it's pretty clear that they're going to remain very vigilant and invested. I think some of the parents are kind of radicalized about like school district transparency, to be honest with you. That was just like, we had a number of people who, as Tyler mentioned, it's like, they went through the program, their kids went through the program, and they're like, I'm going to be watching this until my grandkids are in high school, because they just sort of don't have a level of trust, which for me, I think that was the deeper story. The C.I.C program is important, but what was really shocking to me is this is a school where parent groups advocated for these programs to be formed 40 years ago. And there was this level of trust between the school board and the school district and these parents that now it's kind of difficult to figure out how do they go about rebuilding that when everybody that we spoke with, whether it was a student or a teacher or a parent, felt strongly that they'd been lied to their face by a number of different people.
Well, I can't wait to see how you guys cover this in the future. And I'm hoping that they really did hear and decide to keep this program, because I'm stuck on the 100% college admission. I just don't know why you would do away with a program like this. Seems a little odd to me.
Questions they're not asking, Jackie.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here. And I'm so thankful that you guys are here on our very first podcast.
Congratulations.
So
yeah, it's an honor.
Episode.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it's super exciting for us.
Yeah,
absolutely.
My very first guest, too. We're just doing first all around
History.
here. I'm so excited to have you guys here. Yes.
It started right here, baby.
Right. And they will be back because obviously we've got to cover this. And I just like them because we're sports fans together. So we've got a lot to talk about. So you guys stay with us.